So time now to revisit the Saturday morning papers. Here with me to review them this morning are the broadcaster and journalist Afua Hagan and the author Joanna Williams. So welcome back to both of you. We dealt with a certain number of the front pages in the last hour, but there's so many different stories around on them that there's still some left for us to take a look at, aren't there? And Joanna, you've picked out the Daily Mail to kick us off. You'll see what I did there. It's a World Cup story. And this is talking about the backlash over the beer ban that's just been announced just 2 days before the World Cup kicks off. Joanna, how's the Daily Mail handling this?
Well, with sadness, let's say. I think it's understandable for many football fans having a pint of beer whilst you watch the match is an integral part of the experience, and it adds to the pleasure and it helps you get in the mood, get excited and cheer on your football team. And I think the fact that this has been banned at such short notice is just yet another illustration of some of the complications that are arising from hosting the World Cup in Qatar. I have to say, some of them, as Afua was going to come on to talk about, I'm sure are an awful lot more serious than a ban on beer. But still, this has come as a shock to sponsors, a shock to fans, and I'm just sure there must be a lot of people who organise the World Cup who are thinking never again. Well, I hope they're thinking never again, because I think this has really been a very difficult experience, and the danger is it removes the atmosphere. It's not respectful to the people who have struggled in putting together people who've actually lost their lives struggling to put together this World Cup, building the stadiums. The whole thing just seems to have been an unmitigated disaster, it seems to me.
Well, yes, and one of the sponsors, Budweiser, we saw on the tweet on the screen just there, tweeted briefly, I have to say, well, this is awkward, and then it did get deleted, but they obviously are not terribly happy about that, and some questions about what else could change at the last minute as well. But Afua, as Joanna was saying there, in the context of some of the human rights allegations against Qatar, the question of a beer ban obviously doesn't seem so important. And on the front of the Guardian, they focus on some of the other issues around the World Cup, and this is about workers and how they're paid.
And there's so many issues surrounding this upcoming World Cup. Starts in 48 hours, and like you so rightly said, on the front of the Guardian, it's saying that guards at the World Cup are paid at 35p an hour. So this is migrant workers who are employed as security guards, and they're going to be stationed at Al Bida Park, and that's just adjacent to the FIFA fan space. And they will be there for up to 12 hours a day. When all the fans have gone home, they still remain there to guard the area, to make sure that it's safe and secure, and they are paid 35p an hour. They get 1 day off a week. They don't really seem to know a lot of Qatar. All they know is their job. Apparently they go to their job and back to their accommodation and back again. And this is another example of the way that migrant workers who are brought into Qatar to build these stadiums, it's been said that 6,500 people died making those stadiums. And now you've got stories of the pretty appalling conditions and appalling pay that migrant workers are going to be under to make sure that this World Cup goes smoothly. And like Joanna said, it seems to be pretty much an omni-shambles. We know that, of course, the fact that FIFA wanted to stage this World Cup in Qatar has been so controversial from the jump. The allegations of corruption that led to it being held in Qatar in the first place. And they are just allegations. But like Joanna said, and I completely agree, it does seem like this World Cup is completely a shambles. It's been quite a muted build-up. And what's supposed to be a huge festival of sport has really been mired by the stories of the treatment of migrant workers, by the deaths of them, and of course we can't forget the treatment of the LGBTQ plus community, which they're going to have many concerns as we go into the World Cup in the next few weeks. It does seem to have really spoiled what I said is supposed to be a festival of sport.
Yeah, Certainly proved pretty controversial, hasn't it? Let's move on, shall we, and focus on a story inside the Mail, Joanna, that you want to talk about. And this is the fact that civil servants, the PCS union representing civil servants, is saying that they are threatening strike action, and for quite a long period of time it'll affect key government departments, and there is the prospect of people feeling the effects of this.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is civil servants who are responsible for passports, driving licences and passport controls at airports, threatening to go on strike for up to a month in the run-up to Christmas. Now, I have to say, normally I'm very, very sympathetic to people who want to go on strike. I'm fully supportive of the railway workers, for example, who are on strike at the moment, and absolutely think people have the right to get together collectively and make the case for an increase in their wages, particularly right now when we're seeing such high levels of inflation. But my concern is really how many people are going to feel sympathetic towards civil servants when we've got such terrible backlogs in the system. People are still struggling to be able to get a driving test, to have their driving licence renewed. There are long delays in passport applications, and lots of this does seem to be down to many people still working from home, backlogs that are built up in the system over the course of the COVID lockdowns that have still not been dealt with. And I think you can be very sympathetic towards people wanting higher wages. I'm even sympathetic towards paying higher taxes, but I think there is an expectation that you have a decent level of public service in return from that. And I think where people, certainly where I begin to lose sympathy, if you like, is when you're paying higher taxes, when people want higher wages, but you're actually getting a worse level of public service than you had 2 or 3 years ago.
But Joanna, is there proof that there's lower productivity with people working from home in these jobs? Do we have actual figures on that?
Well, we can certainly see lengthy delays still in people applying for driving licenses and passports. If you have a look at how long, if you go back to 2018, 2019, I'm not exactly sure of the statistics, but I think it would be around 6 weeks that you would wait for either a passport or a driving license. Now you're talking double or even 3 times that length of time. And obviously I can't sit here and directly relate that to people working from home, but clearly something has caused that delay, and those delays have real consequences on people's lives. If you're wanting to take a job working abroad, if you're wanting to terrible situations of attending a relative's funeral abroad, and you are faced with a 3 month, 4 months, sometimes even longer than that delay in getting a passport, then that can have a really devastating impact on your life.
Yeah, interesting to know what is behind that, whether it's staffing levels or, as you say, a changing in working practices. Be interesting to find out, wouldn't it? Afua, we'll move on to the Mirror next. And this is the decision by Rishi Sunak to stop that sort of daily interview being done by a cabinet minister or certainly a minister on that round that they do on breakfast television like this show.
Oh yes, absolutely. We're quite used to seeing government ministers popping up across breakfast television every morning to discuss whatever the issues of the day are. But Rishi Sunak has said that he wants to limit that to 3 times a week. And we have seen some quite disastrous outings by ministers as well on television. And some of them haven't done very well at all. And I think what Rishi Sunak wants to limit is those. He wants to limit those disastrous interviews. He wants to limit those awkward questions. Perhaps he wants to see or to seem that he's pushing his government ministers to get on with their jobs and get on with the jobs of the day. And I think throughout the period of the pandemic especially, it was essential to see our government ministers on television talking to us about what was happening. We've just had the budget, we're used to ministers talking about what the economic ramifications are going to be for us, and we need that daily, but that's not going to happen anymore.
No, yeah, that's absolutely right. We're out of time, but we are going to talk about Paddington in the next hour, so join us next time round. Thanks both for the moment very much indeed.